Malo lele whānau. Today we're going to have a look at the new reading in your second learning pack. So let's scroll down to this text. So this text is called The Naming of Manukau, and it talks about how Manukau Harbour got its name. So if you look at the map here, you will be familiar with this area. So let's have a look. According to legend, the first arrivals of the Great Fleet named the area because they thought at first that distant bird calls were human voices. In here mentioned the Great Fleet, so this refers to the 7 canoes that journeyed from Hawaii to explore and find new land, and they came to Aotearoa. So the Tainui Waka was one of the 7 canoes that came. The Tainui canoe was part of the Great Migration from Hawaii. So migration means when a group of people travels from one place to move to a new place to live. And when they arrived in the Hauraki Gulf, the Tainui sailed up the Tamaki estuary. So if you have a look at the map here, the canoe journeyed down here, and the word estuary refers to a wide part of a river where it joins the sea. So they travelled here, and when they got to Otahuhu, at Otahuhu, they found a narrow neck of land separating them from the broad harbour to the west. So when they got to Otahuhu, they wanted to continue going forward, but they couldn't because there was land blocking their way, and they couldn't get to the harbour over here. So then they came up with a really clever way. Here, they organized a way of carrying the canoe across and refloating it in the tidal waters above Onehunga, and this process is called a portage. So what they cleverly done was they got out of the canoe and flipped it upside down like what the picture shows here, and actually carried it on land across this area, and then dropped it in the harbour here, and then continued sailing. And this process is called portage. Let's take a look at the second paragraph. As they began to sail westward down the harbour towards Mangere Mountain and Onehunga, their alert hearing picked up sounds in the distance, which seemed like human voices. So what it means here is when they got to Mangere Mountain, Onehunga, they started hearing all these sounds, and they thought it was their enemies hiding and ready to attack them. They thought they were the first people to come here and were surprised and alarmed that someone might be waiting to ambush them, waiting to attack them. So the chief sent some scouts to go and run ahead and check out what's going on. So advanced scouts were sent ahead to find out who was lying in wait for them. And they soon came back with the news. He Manukau, which means it's only birds. So, phew, it was just the birds in the water making those sounds. It wasn't enemies waiting to attack them. The abundant bird life, both water and land birds, had produced calls which in the distance had sounded like voices. The Tainui sailed westward through the heads, or perhaps sailed south down the waters of the Manukau harbour, to a point where they could again portage across to the headwaters of the Awaroa River. So if you have a look at the picture here, they've carried the canoe across here, journeyed down here, and then again they had to portage the canoe. So a tributary to the mouth of the Great Waikato. So the Waikato means the area down here. They eventually reached Kawhia, where they settled, and from there, over generations, they spread into the Waikato region. Hauraki and Tamaki, all of which became Great Tainui areas. Now you would have noticed that in the text here there are some keywords that are bolded. You can look up the meaning of these bolded keywords in the glossary just down here.